We're talking mock draft Monday on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I have the Rams going receiver in round one. We'll talk about why and who it is. Sean McVay has some strong opinions on the potential rule changes at the league meetings this year. And Puka Nacua's brothers both scored touchdowns in the UFL. We'll talk about all that and much more on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor. Press that subscribe button now, as about 74.3% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel. So do me the favor, press that subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. First things first, I do want to kind of knock this story out. Not that it's not important, but I do want to kind of talk about this before we get into draft conversations and the league meetings with Sean McVay. And so the Puka Nacua brothers, I should say, not Puka Nacua, but Nacua's brothers, they both scored a touchdown in the same game for the same team. They actually play on the same team in the UFL. So we're talking about Samson and Kyren Nacua. They both scored touchdowns. Here it is for the UFL's Michigan Panthers in a season opening win. It's the first time in their lives that Kai and Samson Nacua scored touchdowns in the same game. So that's obviously pretty cool to see. And I know neither of them are NFL players right now, but I do think it's pretty cool. First of all, Puka Nacua is my favorite Ram right now. And so I obviously love him, love to see him and his family succeed. It's always really cool to see. And in general, seeing a great player like Puka and how much of a great personality he has been for the Rams and for the NFL in general. It's pretty cool to see him and his family succeed in this way, where you're watching his brothers both play alongside each other and score touchdowns in the same game. I think it's pretty cool to see. Here is Samson Nacua's touchdown here. He had a 25-yard receiving touchdown. And I think Samson Nacua, if I'm not mistaken, I got to look it up, but I think he actually played a little bit in the NFL. I saw an image of him playing for the Colts. Obviously, him and Puka actually played alongside each other at BYU for a couple seasons, and so that was pretty cool back when they were playing together. I wasn't paying attention to those BYU days at that point because I didn't know we had to pay attention to what Puka Nacua was going to become, but ultimately I think it was cool to kind of see the images of them. If you guys haven't seen them playing alongside each other, that's always really cool to see. And so Samson Nacua gets his receiving touchdown on the offensive side of the ball, and on the defensive side of the ball, his brother Kyren Nacua gets a pick six, actually a game-sealing pick six, to finish and close out the game versus Memphis. So Michigan Panthers, they win their first game with both Nacua brothers scoring touchdowns. Again, just awesome to see, I think, how great Puka is as a person. Just seeing him throughout the years, obviously the last couple of seasons, growing as an individual and just kind of being this team leader for the Rams on the field, but a great personality off the field. It's cool to see him and his family see some success right now elsewhere, not in the NFL alone. Hey, who knows? Maybe both these brothers end up becoming NFL players one day again. That'd be pretty cool to see them both being Rams one day. Who knows? Moving on from that, sorry, I was going to pull something up, but I meant to pull this up here. Moving on from that, rule changes here. So we're talking about Sean McVay, what he had to say about certain rule changes. So there's annual league meetings going on right now. Coaches, general managers, they talk about the league rules. I don't know if every single coach and general manager has to go there, but I do think a lot show up, obviously discuss the issues they're having, I'm sure, around the league, and just kind of make sure there's safety for the players, but also still kind of maintain the integrity of the game. I think that's obviously very important. And so Sean McVay had some pretty strong opinions about a couple of these rules. So here's him talking first about potentially, and I want to emphasize that it is potentially. He's not trying to propose that NFL should do this, but here is his idea. Kind of honestly, Sean McVay was responding to the report that he reportedly got animated when discussing the tush push rule with Philadelphia Eagles GM Howie Roseman and some other people in the Philadelphia Eagles front office. So he responded to that and kind of explained what he was actually talking about as he heard the report about him getting a little animated about this. And so here's what Sean McVay had to say about banning the tush push. He said, "I don't believe in taking something out because they do it better than anybody else. And I told both John and Howie that when we were talking yesterday. What I don't like is the optics of that play. It looks like a rugby scrum, and there are some health and safety things, which those things exist in short yardage and goal line situations, like anyways, right? Those already exist, but specifically with the way they do it is also some added issues on top of that, right? And there are some health and safety things, which those things exist in short yardage as well. So I'm kind of conflicted because I don't want to be a hater and because they do it better than anybody else. So I don't agree with that, but I also wish we didn't let the play in the first place. In regards to the optics of what it looks like, it doesn't look like football to me, and John and those guys, they understood it, but obviously you know where they stand on that. And so I do appreciate Sean McVay McVay kind of voicing his opinion on this. Obviously, if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, right, for example, you may be listening to this and say, everyone's hating. You guys are haters. You just can't do it like us. We're big, we're strong, and that's why we can do it, and you guys just can. And if it's so easy, you guys do it, right? And I get the Philadelphia Eagles fan perspective. First of all, I hate the Philadelphia Eagles, but second of all, I can understand that if I put my mindset, which I never would, but if I put my mindset from a Philadelphia fan, or if the Rams, for example, and let's not say I'm a Philly fan, but if the Rams, for example, did the tush push, did it well, and it helped them win a Super Bowl, I would have a hard time saying, oh, yeah, I get it. We probably should change this rule, right? And so I think that's where you can kind of understand from that perspective what the fans are saying. But ultimately, I think Sean McVay, other people who are concerned about it, do have a little bit of a point and some ground to stand on. When we're talking about rules and regulations with the NFL, there's so many rules that protect the offense, right? You can't land full body weight on a quarterback anymore. And sometimes it doesn't even feel like the guy does land full body weight on the quarterback and still gets flagged for it, right? The quarterback has so many protections on their own. Obviously, you can't jump over the center anymore in the NFL, right? So there's a lot of rules like that that are really kind of seem minor-ish in terms of injuries, and yet they are really heavily protecting the offense. So how are we not going to consider that for the defensive side of the ball? The defensive guys trying to line up, kind of putting their heads first and their necks kind of getting squished every single play, trying to go all out to stop this play. How is that not a safety concern for the NFL? And I think that's kind of the issue that I have. That's where I'm kind of at. I'm not saying it's fair, not fair, whatever. I think if you're going to consider safety for the players, this kind of seems like an issue that should be resolved sooner rather than later. I don't know what the rule change would be. Is it going to be illegal formation? Is it going to be whatever? I don't really know. But ultimately, I think they should change it. We'll have to wait and see on that. Philly fans, relax in the comments. We get it. You guys get it, and it's good, and whatever. It is what it is. Moving on from that, though, Sean McVay also was talking about a rule change about the seeding in the NFL playoffs. And so I think the Indianapolis Colts, I believe, were a team kind of pushing for this. I forget which team, may have been them. But either way, someone's trying to change the rules and suggest a rule about the seeding in the NFL. And so here's what Sean McVay had to say about it. He said, I'm hopeful that doesn't go through. And here's why. I would be all for it if we played all 15 NFC teams and then 2 cross-conference games. But when you're playing 6 divisional games, then you've got the strength of schedule based on whatever previous year's record was. It's not all the same. So I do think there is something to be said about winning your division. That means something until there's an adjustment in regards to like schedules, things like that of that nature. That's going to be tough. And I do like this idea. This makes a whole lot of sense when you're talking about what Sean McVay is saying. There is 17 games in an NFL season, right? So you physically can't play every team in the NFL. But what Sean McVay is saying here is if we just played every single NFC team, like we played them once every season, NFC versus NFC all season long with only 2 important kind of, maybe the NFL wants to highlight some key kind of cross-conference games. Cool, that would make sense to kind of seed it that way. But the way the seeding is right now, the way you play 6 divisional games, it is not really fair for you to go out and say, yeah, let's just rank them off of general records. I mean, think about back in the Tom Brady days, right? When Tom Brady used to play against the Buffalo Bills, the Miami Dolphins, who else did they play? New England Patriots. I mean, New England Patriots. He isn't New England Patriots. When Brady would play them and Dolphins, Jets, and Bills, right? And they were really bad. That's kind of like, obviously, that's maybe an argument you can say of why we should change things. But when they were really bad, Brady was going 6-0 kind of consistently, right? And so if you wanted to make that change, then you got to change the whole thing because he was automatically getting 6-0. And so therefore, when you're talking about record in terms of his whole team record, of course, it's going to be off to a good start. He's already starting with 6 wins almost guaranteed. And so you can't just go out and say, yeah, let's just make it a general seeding off a record yet, but keep the schedule the way it is. And so I think Sean McVay is making some sense here. If we're going to have 17 games, play all 15 against one conference, do 2 cross-conference games, let's make the seeding happen. But you got to change that first before you change the seeding, playoff seeding now. And I think that actually, because of the way Sean McVay laid it out, he actually could be onto something. And I think that could be a real rule change the NFL makes in the future. You guys let me know how you guys feel about potentially changing that rule moving forward. Moving on from that, before trivia of the day, I should have it here. Oh, here we go. Mock Draft Monday. So as you guys know, I like to do Mock Draft Mondays. I give a general mock draft, just kind of a quick, some ideas of what the Rams could target in the draft this year. Remember, I am not Les Snead. I am not actually in the Rams organization, and so therefore they're not listening to me. They don't care about what I'm saying in these mock drafts. You guys shouldn't care that much either. Just some general ideas of where the Rams could go in the draft. And so here we're talking about firstly, I did want to mention this. As I was doing the mock draft on PFF's mock draft simulator, say what you want about their simulator. You can maybe hate it, love it, whatever. It tends to be okay to me, pretty good to me at least, in terms of where they put players. And here's an interesting thing. If you guys focus in on the 21st pick to the Pittsburgh Steelers, look who fell out of the top 5 and 10 picks in the draft. Shedeur Sanders went to the 21st pick in this mock draft. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that. A couple of days ago, we discussed possibly Shedeur Sanders falling out of the top 5, 10, maybe even all the way down to the Rams pick at 26. If it does happen and he drops out of the top 10, there aren't that many teams who want to get a quarterback, right? And so, like, the Bengals aren't going to take quarterback. Seattle Seahawks, maybe, but they just signed Sam Darnold. Arizona Cardinals, they're kind of locked in on Kyler Murray. And so, right, there's a lot of teams that may not take a quarterback. Denver Broncos as well, right? Maybe Tampa Bay is okay with Baker Mayfield. And so, ultimately, it's very, very intriguing. If Shedeur Sanders falls out of the top 10, you can very easily see him dropping to 20, and that's where maybe the Rams swoop in and trade up. Who knows? I just wanted to kind of highlight that this is a mock draft simulator, and it had Shedeur Sanders falling to the 21st pick in the draft. Just kind of interesting. It's a kind of note there. But moving on from that, talking about my mock draft here, we are talking about the Rams taking a guy who's kind of fallen down draft boards. I think he was actually like a top 15 pick pretty easily earlier in this, kind of mock draft situation where we're discussing the draft a couple months ago. But now he's fallen down draft boards. That's a Missouri receiver, Luther Burden III. Pretty speedy, 4.4 speed, obviously at 5'11". So, I know a little bit of a shorter guy, so you want him to be fast, but 4.40 is still pretty good. Fast, smaller receiver, could be your next slot receiver alongside Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. You still have Tutu Atwell, so if you think that Luther Burden has some learning to do at the receiver position, he can learn behind Tutu. He can learn a little bit behind Jordan Whittington. I know people love both Jordan Whittington and Tutu Atwell, but Tutu's only signed a 1-year contract. He's obviously an older guy as well, been in the Rams for a couple years. Not older, but he's older than his rookie contract. And so if you want to replace Tutu and kind of what Tutu can do on the field with a guy like Luther Burden, I think that I can really see that happening for the Rams. Not that they're the same player, very different players, but I'm just simply adding that it's a slot receiver, speedy guy who can do a lot of interesting things for Sean McVay and his offense. I would like to see the Rams take a guy like this. Again, a guy who was at one point a top 15 pick and now dropping out of the first round potentially. I think the Rams can swoop in and take him and kind of like what they see in Luther Burden and maybe add him to this Sean McVay-led offense. Moving on to the third round, I did have a couple quarterbacks still on the board, so I wanted to hold off on taking Quinn Ewers. I think the Rams could have been patient there. There's about 11 picks in between their first third-round pick and their second third-round pick, so I went ahead with the 92nd pick in the draft. I went after Kyren Williams, offensive tackle from Texas. Big body guy, strong offensive tackle. Again, we're talking third round, so he may not start for you immediately. You don't need him to. You still have Rob Havenstein to be your starter at the right side of the position, but obviously Kyren Williams at the third round, you want him to be ready at all times. He can be your backup right tackle if anything, knock on wood, happens to Rob Havenstein. You have the rookie ready to play, but also learning behind one of the best offensive tackles in the league. Definitely the best right tackle for the Rams in the last decade or so. That is, Kyren Williams learning behind Rob Havenstein. That'd be pretty great, I think, for the Rams. And then ultimately at that next third round pick, I went instead on the offense side of the ball, I went quarterback Quinn Ewers. Again, I talk about this, the F grade here from PFF. I'm not necessarily saying that I think Quinn Ewers is the next quarterback for the Rams. He's going to overtake Matthew Stafford's job or anything. I'm simply saying that I think Quinn Ewers, for some reason, I don't know why, I just think he was going to be a Ram. I don't know. I really don't know why. Decent arm, solid player out of Texas. He's had some great moments in his career, but also some bad moments in his career. And I think the Rams are going to take a chance on him if they have to, because ultimately, if you don't take the guy in the first round, this is kind of where the Rams would be in the range. If you don't like Will Howard, Jalen Milroe, guys like that, then obviously I think the Rams are going to sit and take Quinn Ewers. Not saying that they should, not saying that he's going to be a great pick. I'm simply saying that's what I think the Rams are going to do. Let me know what you guys think about this mock draft down below in the comments. If you have your own mock draft ideas, let me know as well. I can obviously have conversations with you guys in the comments or just bring it up on the next episode. But that's it for my mock draft Monday on today's episode. Hope you guys like that. Let me know what you guys think about it. Again, not the GM. Don't get mad at me. Just give me your ideas on how you guys feel about those players. Moving on from that, trivia of the day. I almost forgot to pull this up, but trivia of the day. My favorite part of the episode, I give a trivia question. You guys play along in the comments down below. Whether you're right, whether you're wrong, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Last episode trivia of the day was this question here. Wide receiver turned NFL commentator Chris Collinsworth led what NFL team in receptions from and receiving yards from 1982 to 1986. The multiple choice options for this question were as such: A, Dolphins, B, Chiefs, C, Bengals, or D, Chargers. We had quite a few people play along on the last episode, which I always appreciate, and I want to shout every single one of you guys out for doing so. So here is a couple of the guesses down in the comments on last episode. We had Tino TV Live saying Collinsworth was a Bengal. We had Floyd saying Bengals. We had Sal saying the Bengals. Steven saying Cincinnati. We had Alstradamus saying Bengals, also agreeing with another opinion of mine that I had somewhere on last episode. Carson Palmer says Cincinnati Bengals. We had Glider saying Bengals. Ramon saying Bengals. Kurt Reed saying Bengals. And Ishmael saying I thought he played for the Bengals. I think this might be a first, and we're talking about in my Rams Digest Trivia of the Day history, where we had over, 8+ people guess, play along, and 100% of you guys not only guessed the same answer, but also got the answer correct. The correct answer for the Trivia of the Day last episode was the Cincinnati Bengals. Chris Collinsworth was a Bengal and led the Bengals from 82 to 86 in receiving yards and receptions back in the day. So shout out to Chris Collinsworth, my boy out there. Shout out to all you guys for playing along. I really appreciate it. If you want to shout out on the next episode of the Rams Digest, play along with today's trivia question of the day. You don't have to get it right. You can get it wrong, and I'll still give you a shout out. In a 2005 win over the Giants, what team became the first in NFL history to return a punt, kickoff, and interception for touchdowns in the same game? As I'm missing the trivia here. In a 2005 win over the Giants, what team became the first in NFL history to return a punt, kickoff, and interception for touchdowns in the same game? Your multiple choice options were: was it the A, Seattle Seahawks? Was it B, the Philadelphia Eagles? Was it C, the Minnesota Vikings? Or was it D, the Dallas Cowboys? What team in a win in 2005 over the Giants had 3 touchdowns? One as a punt return, one as a kickoff return, and one as an interception return in the same game, all for touchdowns versus the Giants in 2005. Let me know your guesses down below in the comments. Remember, if you get it right, you get it wrong. Either way, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. Other than that, that's going to do it for me on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I am out.